Hi, it's Makaela here. Thanks for listening to my podcast. What you're about to listen to is an old episode of my podcast, The Midlife Awakening, which has now been replaced with the Deliberately Transformed Woman podcast. You'll still find some golden takeaways in these old episodes, but if you're the type of person who wants to discover and let go of the things that are holding you back in life by busting through fear and procrastination, overcoming imposter syndrome, and stepping into a life that is fulfilling, courageous, and intentional, then my new podcast episodes, starting from episode 21, are the ones you're looking for. You're listening to episode 19 of the Midlife Awakening podcast with Makaela Moore. This episode is sponsored by my free 5-day beginner's transformation program, Transformation Awaits, starting on February the 18th. Welcome to the Midlife Awakening podcast. I'm Makaela Moore, your host and certified transformation coach. I'm a 40-something woman who nerds out on brain science and believes every woman should be financially independent. This podcast is for women navigating their midlife who want to learn the secrets to unlocking their brain and freeing themselves from everything that holds them back so they can create lasting change in their lives, because everything is possible. Join me each week for conversations about the midlife and tips and tricks to hack your subconscious brain so you can deliberately transform your life and ultimately create your own financial security. First time here? Hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Enjoy! Hey everybody, welcome back. I am so glad you're here. School is back in and I can hear the collective sigh across the country from all the parents who have been doing the juggle of kids and work over the last 7 or 8 weeks. I feel really fortunate that I get to work from home, which means that Sydney doesn't have to go to after school care or vacation care, and I still get to do some work, but man, I have really missed having time to just sit in silence and focus on my work. Our summer holidays are just way too long. But here I am, and I am ready to hit 2020 with huge strides. I have big plans for my business this year. I'll be launching my free 5-day beginner's transformation program called Transformation Awaits in mid-February. And right after that, I'll be launching my next level program, which is Transformation Begins. It's a 6-week group coaching program. And in that, I take my students on the coaching journey, learning all the much needed basics of how our subconscious brain works and how to hack it to make everyday life simple and easier so that we can just start creating results in our everyday life while setting and, working towards bigger future goals without all the procrastination and self-sabotage that always gets in the way for most of us and often stops many people dead in their tracks. The other thing I'm also working on, and I'm super excited about this, is I'm working on a program in the background that I'm going to be taking out into workplaces, teaching all of the brain science and the subconscious awareness to groups of employees so that they can create more productive, harmonious, and stress-free workplaces, and I am so super excited about that. This last weekend it marked the Chinese New Year, and 2020 is the year of the rat. And I was reading a chart on this the other day, and apparently for all of those born in the year of the rat, you are in for one astronomically successful year. Lucky for me, I am a rat. And it feels funny because I am literally bursting with excitement about this year and all the plans that I have. I've just got to stay focused and I'll get there. And that is actually my word for this year, is focused. I had originally thought that, I'd go with evolving as my word of the year because that is what I feel like I'm doing. I'm constantly evolving. But after doing an exercise with my coach a few weeks back where we intentionally chose our word of the year, I settled on focus. Well, actually, I didn't settle on focused. It pretty much jumped out and grabbed me by the throat and demanded, you will be focused this year if you're going to achieve what you want to achieve. So, focus, or the lack of it, has been a big issue for me, which I'm working on. And I know a lot of other people struggle with this too. And it often leads to procrastination and ultimately self-sabotage. And that is what I want to talk about today in this episode, is procrastination and self-sabotage, because it is pretty much the single biggest thing that holds us back from achieving what we want in life, and even just in our day-to-day things. And we've all been there. Whether there is stuff that you must do, need to do, want to do, going to get around to doing, there will always be something else that draws our attention away from it. My husband lovingly calls it my bright shiny light syndrome. Others say they see squirrels. Whatever you call it, it is procrastination. We can try our hardest to focus on doing the things that we need to do, but there will always be something else that distracts us and captures our attention. Social media is public enemy number one when it comes to this these days. A prime example of this, and I know this happens to many of us. The other day I was working away, I had my phone out of arm's reach on purpose, but then I needed my phone to grab a photo. I opened my phone to get the photo, and suddenly, before I knew it, I was just quickly checking in on my Facebook notifications to see if someone particular had actually replied to an earlier comment of mine. And that led me to checking the rest of my Facebook notifications and then just quickly checking in on Instagram because, it had been a whole hour since I'd last looked at it, and so much can happen in an hour out there in social media world. I got caught down the rabbit hole of social media. I got stuck in the scroll. And then I suddenly realized what I was doing, and I looked at the time. I had just wasted 25 minutes doing absolutely nothing productive. So I shut my phone down, I went back to what I was doing, and then I realized I needed that photo from my phone. So the one thing I had gone into my phone for, I still hadn't even done. I then had to go back into my phone to grab the photo, and the addictive part of my brain was just screaming at me to just quickly check, Instagram and Facebook again, to quickly check in and to, what might have been happening out there in that last minute. It was so crazy. And it was in that moment that I understood why and how some people insist on not having those apps installed on their phone or using one of those other, the apps or the filters that block the social media apps, because they are truly an addiction. It gives our brain a dopamine hit, which feels good. And like sugar or alcohol, the more we have, the more we want, because it feels good, regardless of whether it is actually good for us or not. But why do we procrastinate in the first place? Well, the reasons we procrastinate are all fear-based. So I'll backtrack a bit. One of the biggest reasons we procrastinate is that we actually get into perfectionism, trying to make things perfect, doing and redoing them. We just keep trying to perfect things and we never finish them. And the reason we do that comes back to fear. Fear of failure, fear of not being good enough, the fear of being judged by other people. We get into analysis paralysis, where we're not sure what to do or how to do something perfectly. And so we don't make the progress that we should, which spirals us into a cycle of procrastination. Perfectionism destroys our productivity because we just don't get in and do whatever it is that we need to do. We waste time trying to figure out what's right, what's wrong, how to do something, or what people will think of it this way or that way. We waste time questioning ourselves and our abilities and our place in the world. We waste so much time getting ready to do the thing than just actually doing the thing, because we are scared to actually do the thing, or we're scared of the result. We are scared to make a move in case it's the wrong move. As a recovering perfectionist myself, I know this very, very well. My coach has a saying, and it's 70% done is perfect, 100% done is failure. And that's because there really is no perfect. Perfect just doesn't exist. And I used to argue with that concept because I could see that some things could be done perfectly. But that was just my interpretation or my perception of what perfect was. What I might see as perfect, someone else may not. So who's right? No one, because perfect is just an illusion. So when we get stuck in perfectionism, we get stuck in that spiral of procrastination, always trying to make something perfect, But because perfect doesn't exist, we never really reach it. But why do we procrastinate when we get into perfectionism? Well, it's because our fears kick in and we are constantly doubting ourselves, worrying about other people's judgment, fearing the imminent failure, and of course, not feeling like we're good enough, or worse still, feeling like an imposter and questioning everything. And none of those things feel very good at all. So our subconscious brain steps in to save the day by making us feel better about it all, by taking our minds off it and making us do something that feels good and safe. So remember, our subconscious brain has 3 main jobs. 1, to keep us safe. 2, to conserve energy by avoiding hard things. And 3, to seek pleasure. So when we're doing a task, and it doesn't matter if it's, like a new task at work that's possibly even exciting, or that task at home of decluttering the storage cupboard, our brain perceives these tasks as a variety of things, including hard, boring, unpleasurable, etc. And when it is a new task, like, say, a new project at work, the brain sees it as something unpredictable and therefore possibly a threat. So our brains go into that procrastination cycle of allowing us to be distracted by every bright, shiny light possible because they are safe, predictable, effortless, and pleasurable. Which is why when we fall into that rabbit hole of social media, we can literally waste a half an hour looking at nothing and totally lose track of time because our brain kind of goes into this little coma where it's happy and content and safe, and it almost puts this spell over us to make us forget about the thing that we were actually supposed to be doing. And then we realize what we're doing and what we're supposed to be doing instead, and we beat ourselves up for getting distracted and not doing the thing. We tell ourselves things like, oh, I'm never going to get this job done. And then our brains take that programming as gospel and they try their best to make that your reality. If you keep saying that you're never going to get this thing done, then your subconscious brain will make sure you never get that thing done, which is why we get stuck in that cycle of not achieving things. And the more we procrastinate, the more we procrastinate. We can just get ourselves caught in a place of inaction, and we think that we need motivation to do the thing that we need to do, but external motivations are not always a good enough driver for us to get the thing done. If there is a consequence of not doing the thing, then our motivation to do the thing will be directly correlated to the severity of the consequence and whether or not that will feel better or worse than the fear, horror, and dread of possibly failing, being judged, or embarrassed. So that's why most external motivations don't work for us, because we'd rather be stuck in that place of inaction and procrastination, which feels better in the moment than doing the thing and possibly feeling the wrath of failure. Even the possible reward on the other side of the potential outcome is sometimes not enough to get us doing the thing because we're stuck, even when we really, really, really want the thing and we know that it would feel so much better than our current reality. Our brain does not want us to go through the short-term pain for the long-term gain. A prime example of this is the goal of starting your own business. There are so many things to do when we start a business, and some of them are fun, easy, or exciting, and others not so much. I know for myself, I love the thrill of coming up with the business name and all the ideas and the logos and the website design and the planning out of all the things. But when it comes to the difficult things like putting myself out there, actually selling myself or my product, I can procrastinate until the cows come home. Because it is hard, it is scary, I know I'll be judged, it could very well fail, and it's bloody uncomfortable. My brain just goes into that place of fear-based inaction and reminds me how good it is to scroll social media or redesign a logo or write my to-do list again. I can remember one day it was so bad that I remembered a random errand that I had to run, which was absolutely not urgent. It could have been done even weeks afterwards, but my brain went into this overdrive and got me out the door, into the car, and driving over to the other side of town to run this silly errand that I rationalized as being important. And it's funny, when we're in this state, we know we should be doing the work, the thing that we should be doing, But we allow our subconscious brain to control our actions, and then we justify those actions with reasons that our conscious brain creates, which makes us feel better. And then it just becomes this horrible cycle. And the more we justify our procrastinational activities, actually, I'm not even sure that's actually a word, but it is now, procrastinational. But the more we justify the things that we do while we procrastinate, the more we make it okay or right. And we just end up in a spiral. And that is one way we self-sabotage. And it's all subconscious. Even though we can often see what we're doing, we don't always know the reasons behind it and why we're doing it. Because when you think about it, it sounds perfectly logical to say that I want to achieve this thing. Let's say, some sort of project. It could be anything. It could be a uni assignment, a work task, a difficult conversation that you need to have with someone, a yucky task that you have to do at home, or something that's going to be just physically hard. And we can think of all the ways in which we could do this thing. We can think about doing it, and we can imagine that reward that's waiting at the end of it for us. But when it comes to actually doing the thing, our subconscious brain just kicks in and gives us all the reasons why we shouldn't do it. Because it honestly thinks that whatever the task or project is not good for us, not safe for us, and may actually kill us. Fear can take hold and cripple us, causing us to procrastinate. But it can disguise itself in funny ways that we don't even recognize what it is or what's even going on. So we need to be more mindful. We need to observe our thoughts and our actions as if we're sort of, from above. If you are not getting things done on your list, you need to ask why. What did you do instead? Have you ever had one of those days where you're busy, you feel busy, you tell yourself you're busy, you keep busy doing lots of little things? Perhaps you start a ton of things that you don't finish because before you know it, you've moved on to the next thing and the next. And then you get to the end of the day. You're tired because you've been really busy all day. But when you look back, you've actually achieved nothing at all, except perhaps create a mess from all the things that you started. This is where fear hides away, in the house of procrastination. It pretends not to be fear, which is why it hides, but it's there and it's pretending to be laziness, overwhelm, confusion, anxiety, disinterest, tiredness, and exhaustion. But underneath all of that, it is just fear. The fear of failure, the fear of judgment, fear of not being good enough, fear of rejection, fear of being seen, fear of not belonging, fear of not being accepted. And we stay busy doing the busy work to avoid doing the things that we really need to do because our brain kicks into that fear mode. Our brains do not like unpredictability because they're hardwired for keeping us safe. So anything outside of the norm is unpredictable and, according to our brains, possibly going to kill us. So our brains put up a lot of resistance when it comes to doing the things that are either new or somewhat hard. And that is where we need to start the process of reprogramming our brain and training it to recognize these things as nothing more than whatever they actually are and not a risk to our safety. Because we know these things are possible to do. Other humans have done these things that we procrastinate over, so they're not impossible. They're just impossible for us right now in this moment of us allowing our subconscious brain to rule our life by procrastination being the home that fear hides behind. All procrastination is fear-driven, and oftentimes it comes when we get into perfectionism. We get analysis paralysis because we just keep analyzing, and we get into procrastination. We just keep trying to perfect things and never finish them because we are fearful of failure and not being good enough and of being judged. Unlike people who don't allow fear to stop them, and they just take one imperfect action after another, putting themselves out into the world, just getting stuff done, fixing mistakes, and polishing things as they go. They do not wait until everything is just perfect to start. They just start. And that is one of the biggest differentiators between people who do stuff and achieve things in life and those who don't. When something's not easy and takes time to be good at, we get into perfectionism. And if we never actually get it done or finished, then we don't achieve it. But if we waste loads of time trying to make things perfect, we will never get them done, because perfect does not exist. It is just an illusion. And you might start thinking, okay, well, I can take imperfect action, I can make mistakes and I can fix them along the way, and I can polish things and improve as I go because I'm not afraid to fail. But if behind all of that you're still afraid of judgment though, procrastination will still hold you back. So you must know this. People are not actually judging you as much as you might expect because they're just so consumed with their own lives. And if they are judging you, they're judging you through the lens of their own life and their own stories and insecurities, which has absolutely nothing to do with you. People judge us whether we do things good or bad, which is just an interpretation anyway. They judge us for what we wear, what we say, how our hair looks, what we do for a job, what we don't do in life, what we do in life, what we don't do in life, how we raise our kids, where we take our holidays, what our house looks like, what car we drive. You get the picture. People are always judging us. So if we let the fear of judgment stop us from doing things, we would never get anything at all done in life. And what does it matter what people think of us anyway? It's none of our business. What is our business though is taking action, doing what we want in life, living our life to the full, and serving others along the way. If you want to explore this subject more for yourself, hop on over to www.makaelamore.com/transformation and sign up for my free 5-day beginners transformation program, Transformation Awaits, which launches February 18th. I'll also pop a link in the show notes. Do it. It's going to be worth it. You'll love it. That's all from me this week. Have fun spotting all of the ways in which you procrastinate and what the fear hiding behind it is. Thanks for listening. I'll chat to you next week. Bye for now. And that, my beautiful friends, is another episode of The Midlife Awakening. If you'd like more inspiration or to connect with other midlifers, head on over to my Facebook group, Deliberately Transformed. You'll find the link in the show notes. Until next time, cheers.